Red meat, by that I mean beef, lamb, and pork, have a sugar molecule in their flesh, in their blood vessels, called Nu5GC. Humans have a sugar molecule lining our blood vessels called Nu5AC. Fish and chicken have Nu5AC. Now, these two compounds are very similar, but Nu5GC, we can make an antibody against it when we eat beef, lamb, and pork, and it can cause us to attack the linings of our blood vessels by mistake. And so one of the theories of why eating red meat increases the risk of heart disease is this Nu5GC. Now, the other thing that's scary to me is we know that tumors can avoid detection by the immune system by wrapping themselves in Nu5GC. And since we don't have the ability to manufacture Nu5GC, nor do our cancer cells, the Nu5GC has to come from our diet. And that may explain why most studies of red meat eaters show a higher incidence of cancer, particularly colon cancer, than in non-red meat eaters. And it's this Nu5GC cloaking ability. Now, how strong are each of these? That's for you to decide. Does that mean we should never eat any animal product? I don't think so. I eat animal products. I personally consider myself a vegetarian. That means I eat mostly vegetables and nuts, but I supplement my diet, particularly on the weekends, with wild shellfish and wild fish. And that, for me, works out very well. Do I ever have beef? Yes. I will have a 6-ounce grass-fed, grass-finished filet about once every 3 months, quite frankly. I almost never eat pork. Lamb is very rare. Do I have pastured chicken? Yes, I do have pastured chicken. But again, it's a treat rather than a staple in the diet. So all of these factors make up the reasons why animal protein should be not the king of your plate, but should be something way down the list. You know, as a society, we've become obsessed with protein. But the truth is, really, not only should we lessen our animal protein, but we actually need very little protein in our diet in general. Now, why is that? Well, we're actually very thrifty creatures. We're very efficient. And every day, we slough the lining of our intestines into the lumen of our intestines, and that lining is protein. So every day, 20 to 30 grams of protein is recycled. So when you see that, you should be getting 100 grams of protein or 200 grams of protein, and I say you should be getting 50 to 70 grams, remember, these recommendations aren't compensating for the fact that you're actually reabsorbing quite a bit of protein every day from yourself. The other thing that's important to realize is that even my friend Dr. Walter Longo thinks that as we get older, we should add more protein into our diet because somehow, magically and mystically, we need more protein as we get older. Well, what I found from my research is that we don't need more protein in our diet. We need to repair the wall of our gut. And that way we will absorb the protein that's already in our diet. Most of us damage the wall of our gut progressively as we get older from the foods we eat, particularly from lectin-containing foods. And I've now had thousands of patients who have had low protein levels, low albumin levels, which is the most prevalent protein in our blood. When we put them on a limited protein diet, but on a lectin-free or lectin-light diet, miraculously, their protein levels go up in their bloodstream despite eating less protein. Why? Because now we've repaired the wall of the gut, and now we have a big absorptive area to absorb protein. And I think that explains why Dr. Longo and others think we need more protein as we get older. But in fact, the fact that we need apparently more protein is actually scary, that we're damaging the wall of our gut. And as you learned in the longevity paradox, our longevity is tied to the intactness of the wall of our gut. And the longer that wall is intact, the better shape it is, the longer we live, and the healthier we live at all times. Lastly, I turned 72 this month, and I'm always reminded that Dr. Atkins, the father of the high-protein diet, died at this age, and always remember that Dr. Atkins died an obese man. So protein is not the panacea for a long life. And just to remind you, there is no evidence of a long-lived society that eats a high-protein diet. None. Almost all long-lived societies, one of the universal factors in their diet is that they eat a remarkably low protein diet, low animal protein diet. So next time you're thinking, I need to get more protein in my diet, think again and think about where you want to get your protein from. Fermentation can actually help. So properly fermented pork, like Italian prosciutto, Parma ham, or 5J ham from Spain, and traditional European fermented sausages have virtually no new 5GC levels because beneficial bacteria actually eat this sugar molecule during the aging process. And that's why most of the famed blue zones actually eat a large amount of originally new 5G containing foods, like sausages, like milks, that have been fermented in the traditional preparation of sausage or with yogurt or cheeses, and the new 5GC is gone. Now, a good friend of mine, Chef Jimmy Schmidt, a 3 times James Beard award-winning chef, has recently developed a method to ferment pork and beef using specific probiotic cultures that actively eat and destroy new 5GC, making his meats far healthier than conventional options. So check out the episode on my YouTube channel or the audio version to find out more about this. Now, if you're looking for pork that won't overload your body with new 5GC, Jimmy's products at jrranchfoods.com are some of the best options available. Now, salami. Most of the salami you get in the United States is not made in a traditional way. Traditional salamis and other sausages are made by introducing bacteria into the sausage casing, and the bacteria ferment new 5GC. Now, most American manufacturers don't do that. It's too labor and time intensive. But some do. How do you know? So you look for the word lactic acid cultures on the label. If you see that, it's usually going to be fine. Just recently, a patient came in showing me a label that says lactic acid on the sausage that they had bought. It didn't say lactic acid cultures. So just because somebody added lactic acid has nothing to do with adding bacteria that are lactic acid bacteria. Remember, they're always going to try to fool you. So you're going to remember lactic acid, but what I want you to remember is lactic acid cultures. Don't be fooled. Are there other reasons that fermented pork sausages might be good, besides not having new 5-GC? Well, actually, the fermentation process actually produces really cool compounds called polyamine that have been shown to improve your brain health and actually promote longevity. And it's the fermentation process of these sausages that actually produces these polyamines. More fun facts: prosciutto or Parma ham actually has living probiotic cultures. So say yes to prosciutto, but please look for the true prosciutto di Parma made in Italy. One of the reasons is really cool because these pigs are actually fed Parmesan cheese rinds to eat. Now, 5J ham from Spain is also a very special ham where the pigs are actually fed acorns. And then that ham is fermented, eliminating the new 5-GC. Acorns are rich in omega-3 fats, and 5J ham is very, very rich in omega-3. And imagine that, eating a ham that's good for you because of the omega-3 content. Now, the downside of 5J ham is that it's incredibly expensive. We're beginning to see it in stores in small packages. I once had a patient from Spain who basically paid me in 5J ham. True story. If you're listening, I'd love to see you again and bring some 5J when you come. Be careful, though, it'll empty your wallet very quickly, but it's really great. So to summarize, pork is not the other white meat. It is not chicken. It is new 5-GC. Chicken is new 5-AC. Pork is not infected with trichinosis. In fact, there are a number of chefs that now serve pork pink rather than fully cooked. Downside is new 5-GC. If you want it, use it the way traditionally it has been served in sausages or in hams, fermented the traditional way. Are there potential interesting benefits? Well, it depends. For instance, there was a 2020 study funded by Beyond Meat at Stanford University, and they compared the Beyond Burger with animal meat. And they looked at 36 people who alternated between eating the Beyond Meat versus eating animal meat. Now, as you probably expected, the Beyond Meat led to less saturated fat and more fiber in their diet. But interestingly enough, their people's protein and sodium levels stayed exactly the same. The TMAO, which I've talked about, is a controversial substance that our gut microbiome can make from animal protein and animal fat. The TMAO levels in these people was lower in the Beyond Meat than the meat. But interestingly enough, the microbiome analysis showed absolutely no difference between the two groups. So, long story short, if you're interested in lowering saturated fat, and I'm not sure why, unless you're an ApoE4 person, you'd be interested in that, and interested in more fiber, there's certainly a whole lot easier ways to get fiber than Beyond Meat. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the bleeding plant burger or the Impossible Burger. Now, besides water, here are some of the main ingredients. Number 1, soy protein concentrate. Here we go again. First of all, almost all soy in the United States is genetically modified and is sprayed with Roundup. Oops. Number 2, you're not taking a soybean that potentially could be beneficial, because if you took it and fermented it and made it tempeh, you could denature the lectins in that and make it an acceptable food that millions of people around the world use. But when you take soy and break it apart, you once again have an ultra-processed food. Number 2, sunflower oil. Now, this is once again, seed oil that is primarily alpha-linoleic acid, a rather nasty omega-6 fat, not a friendly omega-3 fat. Plus, most sunflower oil is heated and refined, becoming a toxic compound. All right, number 3, coconut oil. Okay, it's not refined coconut oil. Finally, we actually have a good ingredient. It's number 3. Now, just a word of warning. If you carry the ApoE4 gene, which 30% of people do, coconut oil is probably not your best choice. Number 4, thickener. INS461. What the heck is that? Well, it's most likely methyl cellulose. Methyl cellulose is basically wood. So if you like chewing on wood to give that mouthfeel, go ahead. But you're not a termite. Okay, let's skip down to check out the last one. This is my favorite. Soy leghemoglobin, genetically modified. Now, this is what makes this burger bleed. Soy has been genetically modified to have the hemoglobin molecule. But spoiler alert, there's never been any testing to decide if this compound is actually safe to eat. It's just never been done. So if you like the idea of being healthy and avoiding genetically modified food, dig in. It's right there on the label, genetically modified. And the ingredient that's not listed on either of these, and is probably the most harmful, is of course glyphosate. Now, why didn't they put glyphosate on the label? Because the USDA and the FDA have decided that glyphosate is harmless to humans, even though the Environmental Working Group, multiple European agencies have banned glyphosate because of its very strong association with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma development and other leukemias. In fact, if you're paying attention to the news, Bayer, which bought Monsanto, is paying out a large amount of money in lawsuits because of this association. So if you think it's a good idea to have your healthy plant alternative burgers, you're eating glyphosate, and it doesn't have to show up on the label. Please stay away from these things. But all is not lost. Now, I think there are actually some very healthy mock meat substitutes. First of all, one of my favorite is a company called Quorn, and people hear the word corn. It's not. It's Quorn. This uses simplistically mushroom roots, mycelium, that's combined with a tiny bit of egg white to make two of my favorite mock meats. One is called crumbles, which is exactly like it sounds. It looks and tastes like ground turkey. And the other is chicken pieces or meat pieces, and they look like it sounds, like little pieces of cut up chicken or cut up beef. Please avoid most of them that are coated with breading because they contain gluten. A great number of stores have this in the vegetarian freezer aisle. Look for it. You can even go to their website and put in your zip code and you can find it. I have no relationship with them. I just think it's been a real useful thing for my patients. I've even fooled friends who have come over for tacos in cassava flour tortillas, and they thought they were having turkey tacos, but it was corn. Hillary's Root Burger, if you can find it, is good. There are jackfruit-based products, but please avoid the sugar-soaked ones. Now, when I was at Loma Linda, a great number of the foods, the mystery meats, as we used to call them, were made from TVP, capital T, capital V, capital P as in Paul. That's texturized vegetable protein. Now, what that is defatted soy meal that's been extruded under high pressure and high temperature to make a fake meat. And you can make just about anything fake from this. The great news about it is because of the high pressure and the high heat, it doesn't contain any lectins. And this is available. Usually you'll find it in a BPA-free can, and go ahead and do it. Also, we're beginning to see more and more in certain stores mushroom-based mock meats. And for the most part, they have good ingredients. Be careful, a lot of them are breaded. But if you want to, just make a portobello mushroom pizza like we have in the Plant Paradox book, and you'll get all the benefits of mushrooms and a burger-like consistency without any muss or fills. All right, so whenever you're looking at these plant-based alternatives, look out for soy proteins, look out for pea proteins. Word to the wise, if it says protein isolate, the lectins have been removed. But word to the wise, that's also a processed food, so buyer beware. Many of these products have gluten, particularly the breading. One product that I won't mention starts with a G, sounds like garden, uses vital wheat gluten in most of their products. That's the last thing. Now, if you're not a vegan or vegetarian, opt for wild fish or pasture-raised poultry or wild shellfish. And those will be great for you. Chicken liver, the forgotten superfood. Now, we've got a protein that most people completely overlook, but it's actually one of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. I'm talking about chicken livers. Yes, organ meats like chicken livers. Now, don't worry. I'll show you exactly how to prepare it, so it's not only healthy, but delicious too. Now, organ meats from poultry, like chicken or turkey or ducks, are staples in traditional diets, particularly in France and Italy, and for good reason. Chicken or duck liver is rich in vitamin A in its active form, B12, iron, folate, and high-quality protein, nutrients many people today are deficient in. There's actually a pâté diet in France that's incredibly effective for weight loss, but quite frankly, it's very expensive. Now, here's the problem. Please, please, please don't hear this and say, oh, Dr. Gundry wants me to eat beef, lamb, or pork liver. No, don't do that. These livers have the highest new 5G levels of any food measure. Sorry about that. I'm talking about chicken or duck or turkey liver. They have new 5AC, the same molecule that we have in us. Now, livers are also a great source of choline. which supports brain and liver health. Now, the cost? You can often find pasture-raised chicken liver for just a few dollars a pound. It's usually thrown away. It makes it one of the most nutrient-dense and affordable foods available. And in fact, many of the really great places that I get and recommend my chicken, like lectinlightchicken.com or primalpastures.com, sell these chicken or duck or turkey livers, gizzards, hearts at a very cheap price, because that's basically leftover from what they're really selling. So what I do, first of all, I can tell you that every time I get off the plane in Paris, France, I make a beeline with my wife to the Marais district, to a little French cafe where I always order the sautéed livers and salad. Always. And it's a staple on the menu. It is never left the menu. And that's what they eat for lunch. Put it on a salad. The Italians, you would not find an hors d'oeuvre plate that doesn't have liver pate, chicken liver pate on the plate, because it's always there. You can blend cooked liver into pate with extra virgin olive oil, garlic, and herbs. So don't discard the liver. Hide it if you really don't like the flavor, or dress it up with herbs and garlic and then put it in a salad. It's a great addition to get a lot of protein that's really good for you.